In this tutorial, we're going to try something a little bit different with Weldment profiles. We're going to build this cabinet. You can do all kinds of different things with Weldment profiles, and this is one of those. I'm going to build a template skeleton for the model. I'm going to create the custom profile sections. I'm going to add some basic hinges and handles. And then to finish, I'm going to render the final assembly. We're going to start our model by building a template for the Weldment profiles. So we'll start by selecting the front plane. We're going to draw a 2D sketch on the front plane. We're going to go to File, Insert, Reference Geometry, Grid System. So we're going to build a 3D grid, but we're going to start off by drawing a 2D sketch. So on the front plane, we're drawing the end of the cabinet. So just a base sketch for aligning the Weldment profiles. Here I'm just starting to constrain the sketch. So we need a line in the middle. So anything that we think we're going to use to run a Weldment profile along, we're drawing here. So this is going to be 600 mm high. It's going to be 500 mm here, and it's going to be 500 mm wide. Now the parts are actually going to be a little bit bigger than this, but this is our basic skeleton. So now we're defining how many sections in our array, and this will become clear in a minute. So we can customize our array. So we're going to have the first section 200 mm from the second to the third is 500, the third to the fourth is 500, and the fifth is 200. And this will become clear when we click. We've selected 5 sections, so we now have 5 sections in our grid system. So the first 2 are 200, the last 2 are 200, and the middle 2 are 500 apart. And we've shown the 3D sketch which is generated. Okay, so next we need to start to create some of our actual profile sections. So we need to create some library parts. So I'm going to start by creating a new part. I'm going to go to the front plane and I'm going to draw a 2D sketch. So I'm going to map out 5 cover sections, 2 frame sections, and a tabletop just to start with. So let's start with one of our frame sections. So I'm going to make this frame section 20 by 10. Okay, so just a basic sketch, and we're going to add points anywhere we think we might want to match up our template grid system to. This will become a little bit more obvious later. So I've got 4 corners or 2 middle sections that I can link to. So we select the sketch, we go to File, Save As, and we're going to create a library part. So I'm just in a generic area at the moment. So I've selected for my Solidworks the Weldment profile section, but this might be different for your particular installation, so you need to check out where this would be. So we've created within the Weldment profiles folder, cabinet folder, and then a parts folder. Should have selected library feature part right at the start as my file, and I've got to go back into my folder location. So cabinet parts, and it's very important that I've got 2 levels, 2 folder levels. So first folder cabinet, second folder parts, but this can be whatever you want it to be, and this will pop up in the library parts area later on. So frame 20 by 10, just so we can identify it. Just to warn you, the naming convention is very important when you're putting together these library parts. So in the practice runs for this video, I found that if I used a dash or any kind of slightly misinterpretable symbol, Solidworks tended not to recognize the profile. I don't know why this happens, but it just did. So be very careful your naming convention for these profile sections. So I've created 2 frame sections, and I'm creating now a cover profile section. So a 20 by 10, a 20 by 20 frame section, and now a cover section. And I'm always using the length and the width so I can identify these parts later on. So 100 by 10. So for this tutorial, I know the size of the parts that I'm requiring. But obviously, when you create your initial template skeleton model for your weldments, you may have your own sizes in mind. So don't be afraid of the fact that I'm going through this and I'm mapping these parts out without explaining 100%. It's because I know the sizes that I need to match up to my skeleton that I built in the first introduction video, or first introduction part of this video, shall we say. So we're just building a series of profile sections. We're near the end now. So a 500 by 10. And then we need a 520 by 10. So remember, to these boxes, anything that I think where I might need to link to a midsection, I've put some reference geometry in there so I can link up to it later on. So yeah, that should be 520 by 10. And I think with this one that I might need to link elsewhere other than the corners or the middle. So I'm adding some reference points in a slightly different location. And these profile sections that we're building and adding to the library can be edited once they've been created. So if you create a profile section and you find that you don't have the right references for the profile to follow, you can go back in and you can re-edit. So everything's fully constrained, and we're making a final cover section, and it's 520 by 10. So we need a tabletop. Let's create the tabletop. And this is going to be 540 by 20. Okay, 540 by 20. Okay. So I have my tabletop. So I've got my 5 cover profile sections, 2 frame sections, and a tabletop. Didn't quite get that naming convention right. Table top. So these are all library feature parts. Okay. Just going back. and I need my base panel. So I've got I've got the floor, so I'm just putting together the base panel for my cabinet as well. Okay, I think we're finished now. We can go into the template, and then the next thing to do is to start matching up our weldments. So structural member, weldment structural member, cabinet. So you've got the two default areas. We've got cabinet and parts. So and then we've got a list of all the parts that we can select, all of our parts that we've added to the library. Okay, so now we've got our library. Let's start building the frame. So we've got two different frame profiles we can use. We're going to use the 20 by 10. We start by creating a group, and we select sections along our template to build our frame. So then we can go to locate profile, and we find the template that we built earlier. We select a corner, and this will match the corner to the template. I'm now building a second group along the bottom. So this is my 20 by 10 frame section. It's just a square section. When I'm happy I've got all the parts, I go to locate profile. That's the first input. Select the corner, and the corner matches it to the skeleton. Okay, so I've got two separate groups in my first structural member. So if we go over to the left hand side, what I want to do, let's have a look at the cut list. So we've got a cut list now. So each of our structural members that were put together as a result of this structural member, each of our individual sections are listed in this cutting list. Now I've got quite a few, and I really want to combine some of them, so I'm going to select everything down this on this length section, and I'm going to go to combine, and I'm going to combine them. So they're going to be, as far as the cutting list is concerned, they're going to be known as one long section, because realistically this is going to be a timber framed cabinet, so I can't envisage it being made in individual sections. There'll just be one long length, and then the ends will be mated. So each of my lengths I'm going to combine, so I'm going to have 4 combines. Can be tricky finding all the desirable structural members. And I'm doing this now because this list is going to get quite long and confusing, so I'm combining these now. One word of advice, when you do combine structural members, it can cause you some issues later on when you cut one member against another, and this came up in the practice runs for this. So you may choose to combine things when you've finished. So I'm now building my cross sections. So I'm using the frame 10 by 20 or 20 by 10 again, and this time I'm using the middle as my reference to the skeleton. So it's aligned by the middle of the profile that I put together. Okay, so what I'm going to do now, I'm just colouring these sections that I put together so that I can identify them later on. So we're making the top and the bottom frame yellow. We'll give the intermediate crossover sections a different colour. Make them maybe orange. And then we're going to start a new structural member, new group, frame 20 by 20 this time. And we're going to put our vertical legs in. So we're matching by the corner. So the corner's matching up to the skeleton. And we're going to do each group individually, or each leg individually, because they're going to match up. I tell a lie, we're going to do the four corners individually. So locate profile, and we want this corner down here. Locate. Okay, so that's where I want that one to go. So then we do the other corners, and we select locate, and we select the corner we want to match up to the skeleton. New group, select, locate again. Can become a little bit repetitive, but it gets you there. So now we can select the three in the middle because they're all going to use the same reference point. So we go to locate, and we need a middle reference. We don't have it here, so that could cause an issue. We're going to come back to that in a second. Let's go to locate here. Just going to finish off the final group. And it looks like I do actually have, maybe I do have a reference, I've just not seen it. Just reference, I'm going to go and open the 20 by 20 frame just to confirm. I think I've just seen it anyway, but let's go in and have a look. This is where you could go in and make some edits and add something. But yes, yeah, you can see we've got the middle point references. So we don't need to save or make any modifications. So let's just go back into the structural member that we just created, find the correct group. So it's groups 5 and 6. Locate the profile. Now we just need to, all we need to do is spin it around. So it was just hiding. So turn it by 90 degrees. Okay, and now we had a middle reference that we can locate and select, and that puts it exactly where I want it. Now let's go to group 6, find that reference, it's right there. Spin it by 90 degrees, and then click it to locate it against the skeleton. Okay, so now we've got our frame, but we've got a lot of clash points, and we need to sort these out. So we're gonna break this up. So we've gone into trim and extend, and the type of corner you select is quite important. So getting the wrong corner leads to all kinds of mishaps. So we can select a bunch, everything we need to trim by selecting the first corner type. Now we select the bodies we want to trim against. And you can choose, you can see lots of highlighted keep or remove bodies. Now you can choose individual sections that you want to keep once they're trimmed if you want, but I've just left it set as default because I know by default I want it to get rid of the bits that are crossing over. So we've broken up the lengths into two sections. So you can see there's no clashes, everything just butts up against each other now. Okay, and that is our frame. And then we can move on and start adding some of the panels now.